fools will resign. Wise players will make a draw, but only a true genius could ever dream to win this position with white. The first move is obvious. White needs to take this pawn and try to promote it. And if black tries to stop this pawn, after the knight captures the other black pawn, this is simply a one endgame. So after the pawn capture, black tries rook c1 check, trying to misplace the white king. And if the king goes to g2, well, now actually this is simply a draw because the black king is going to be able to stop the pawn in time. So the first brilliant move that white needs to find in this position is king f2, leaving the rook to perish in the corner, but keeping a defense on the e file, meaning that the rook can now not come back to stop the pawn. And after e7, black is left with only one choice. Black needs to check us, and the king has to go up, and the rook keeps checking us. And we keep going up, and the rook keeps checking us. We go up, and it checks us. But now finally, we can pick up this f pawn, but after rook h6, we realize that we cannot keep going up, because if the king goes to f7, we're going to lose the knight with check, and then lose the pawn. And if we move, for example, to the e file, now the rook can come all the way back and threaten this skewer, winning the pawn. So after this rook check, black is simply out of the woods, and this is going to fizzle out to a draw, right? Absolutely not, because the king goes back to f5, and the rook has to keep checking, because there is no way to stop the pawn otherwise. And the king goes down, and the rook checks it. But now don't think that our plan is just to go all the way back, and then once we reach the end of the board, come all the way up. That wouldn't make any sense. The king now has to go to e3 and actually run to the other side of the board. And you might think, Pietro, what for? This doesn't make any sense. The rook can keep checking us. And what have we achieved? After the rook checks on h6, now we have a new move available. Knight to f6! A full knight sacrifice that forces black to check from f6 now. The king, once again, needs to escape the checks, not by going up and allowing the rook to pin us, not by going back and allowing the skewer, but by going back down again. And the rook has to chase us. So rook f5, king d4, rook f4, king d3, rook f3, and now the king finally can go to e2, meaning that black is lost. There is no way to stop the pawn. And after something like rook f5, we finally get a queen, winning the game. If you love incredible chess, you have to follow me.